OK, let's discuss this now with Mahjoob Zweiri, who's a professor of contemporary Middle East politics at Qatar University. Welcome to you, Professor. If we look at Israel's demands, among them is having control of Lebanese airspace. Now, in times of conflict, if you control airspace, you control a war. Can you imagine any country in the world conceding control of its own airspace to a hostile state?
Of course not. When Nazis attacked France and occupied Paris, French people, they resist and they rejected any kind of control of their country and sovereignty. Of course, these are what so-called the realities the right government in Israel they try to create, whether in Gaza and Lebanon. They want they create a new realities in favor of security of Israel and basically serving the right wing agenda in Israel, regardless the interest of other nations, regardless the respect of other nations, regardless the right of a human nation. They are killing everywhere, and no one questions this process at all.
The US envoy is going to be in Beirut today to speak with Prime Minister Nikati. My question is the US representative there just as a messenger for Israel to bring their message and put across their demands? Or is he there to actually try and negotiate some kind of peace and to put across what the United States wants?
Well, it's important, Neil, to bring back the French U.S. proposal suggested in late September 24 about 20 days of ceasefire, which rejected by the Israelis after 24 hours or less. French and the United States, they try to push sort of a solution for ceasefire and trying to create a reality, mixing the two resolutions, 1701 and 1559, the two resolutions that basically achieve two goals to Israel. One, push back Hezbollah and its own forces to behind the Litani River. And secondly, trying to create realities, which is a free zone, or sorry, an area where no one allowed to come to in the southern Lebanon, and trying to create sort of limitation on UNIFIL forces on the southern Lebanon. They try to transfer UNIFIL to become more a fighter forces rather than a peacemaking forces. And if the proposal, which I was trying to find out in the last 24 hours, if this points included, I'm not sure Lebanese will be accepting that.
I mean, the Prime Minister of Lebanon has already came out last week and said Hezbollah have agreed to go back to 1701, that UN resolution. Hezbollah will withdraw from near the Israeli border. In theory, that would be a big step towards establishing a ceasefire. What Israel's demanded today is clearly contravenes all of the 1701 resolution. It clearly doesn't want any part of that. What do you think Israel does want? Is it the annihilation of Hezbollah, or is it something else?
Israeli government wants to make sure that Hezbollah is weak, is no longer effective in terms in Lebanese politics and militarily. These things are not achieved to the Israelis. It's obvious. I mean, in the last less than 48 hours, more than 225 missile rockets were basically targeted Israel. So basically, these are not achieved. Israelis are failing to get into Lebanese soil. So all of what they have done, they killed the leadership with military or political leadership, but they are not achieving anything on the ground. And that's what it's a copy paste of what they have done in Gaza. Now they are destroying all of the infrastructure in Lebanon, which they so-called Hezbollah infrastructure, so they can force Hezbollah to give sort of concessions. So far, this policy, this approach have not succeeded, neither in Gaza nor in Hezbollah. And now, what's interesting that the United States, instead of playing role of forcing Israelis to respect the international resolution like 1701, they try to change the narrative about this kind of resolution so they can create a new realities in favor of Israel.
OK, Mahjoob, appreciate your time. Professor Mahjoob Zweiri,
Thanks so much.
Professor of Contemporary Middle East Politics at Qatar University.